Tanjiro finds a new sword in Demon Slayer Season 3 Episode 2, and it's all thanks to the Yoriichi Type Zero combat doll that he finds during an argument between Muichiro and Kotetsu. Tanjiro is told that the doll is made to mimic a Demon Slayer from the past who was so powerful and skillful that the doll needed 6 arms to mimic his power. And a large part of the second episode of Demon Slayer Season 3 was about Tanjiro facing this doll and figuring out how to overcome it so he could become even stronger. Repeatedly, we see Kotetsu pretty much telling Tanjiro, hey, you're not gonna eat if you don't beat this doll, or if you can't land a hit on this doll or do anything to it. And he honestly sticks by it because Tanjiro is put through some grueling training, and Tanjiro explains to us that this is training given to him by someone who doesn't really understand the limits of a human body, right? And because of that, Tanjiro's training was really accidentally way better than it probably should have been from Kotetsu. We see time and time again through the episode that Tanjiro has a lot of trouble dealing with the Yoriichi Type Zero doll, and on this channel we've already explained the backstory of the character who the doll is based off of, the original Sunbreath user, so you can go watch that video by clicking the card in the top right to learn everything there is to know about that character. However, one of the big reasons that I think Tanjiro had to fight this Sunbreath user doll is that when the Sunbreath user was alive, he actually had a particular ability that allowed him to enter a place called the see-through world, where he can literally see into the body of his opponents, sensing their muscles in every action to find the perfect path for his sword. Tanjiro finally manages to cut the doll by the end of the episode by heightening his senses after basically starving and reaching a near-death stage that he breaks through. He learns to smell incoming attacks and the path to cut through them, which is quicker than waiting for the killing thread to appear. And all of this leads to Tanjiro doing a really cool kind of like spin maneuver in the middle of the air and breaking the doll, revealing a mysterious quest reward inside. Now, this was a mysterious blade that had been hidden inside the doll for nearly 300 years ever since its creation, and many theorize that it originally belonged to the original Sunbreath user, Yoriichi. However, there are a few discrepancies between this blade and the original blade that we see Yoriichi have at his side in flashbacks. First off, when we see Yoriichi's blade, it has a gold-dipped hilt with a rough texture to allow for a natural sort of grip, which differs from the tattered white and yellow cloth that we see from the sword within the doll. Yoriichi's sword also had an entirely different crossguard with a sort of rectangular design when he was alive, which is entirely different from the circular spoked sort of car rim looking like crossguard that the blade in the doll currently has. Lastly, it has an entirely different sheath, with Yoriichi's sheath being black and this sheath being all white. So for a long time, I definitely did question if this was actually Yoriichi's original blade, but at the very least, due to any lack of explanation on where the sword came from, we do in fact just have to accept that it is the first user's blade despite the differences. One explanation for the differences could be that the gold was stripped off of the blade because it had value, but the members of the Kotetsu family were the ones who built the doll, likely with the supervision of the original Sunbreath user, and I don't think a family from the Swordsmith Village who are so close to the Demon Slayers would have done this. There is a potential that at some point over its history, a Kotetsu member down the line did strip the gold from the blade in order to get money for supplies to fix the doll in a crisis. However, without an answer, we honestly just don't know. Now, after Tanjiro finds the blade, it's given to Haganazuka, who finally appears and agrees to refurbish the blade to its original sharpness and shine. And during the process, Haganazuka is single-mindedly working on the blade, even when he gets attacked by the Upper Moon Demon Gyoko during the reforging process. Haganazuka comments on the beauty of the blade and its sheer brilliance, but as soon as the blade itself is finished, Tanjiro needs it to do battle with Han Tengu and his many different clones in the Swordsmith Village, who he readily takes down when equipped with this new blade. Eventually though, Tanjiro's blade is properly completed, and we see it in all of its true beauty, rewrapped with a black and red cloth. For the crossguard, if you remember, Rengoku's brother and family sent over the crossguard with the flames that Rengoku originally had on his sword, so Tanjiro actually gets Rengoku's crossguard from his Fire Hashira sword with the beautiful flame design. And this all leads into the magnificent black blade that at times has a red-like flame pattern going up the length of the blade, as well as the character for destruction inscribed on the very base of the sword. Like we just mentioned, much like the original Sunbreath user's sword, this blade can turn red, which is thanks to a very special power that only the original Sunbreath user and Tanjiro possess as of this moment in this series. But we can explain more about that in an upcoming video, all about the strange marks on our Demon Slayers that take this series to a whole new level. Now, Tanjiro does actually go on to use this sword for the remainder of the series. His sword breaking was something that happened a lot early on in the series, and I believe it was mainly due to the fact that he wasn't handling it correctly, but it also probably has something to do with the fact that he was using the Sun Breath, and some of these swords just weren't equipped with the power that that sword style offered. And I feel like this sword is one of the big reasons why this arc is so important and so necessary, story, because yes, of course, Tanjiro does need a new sword, and that could have just gotten mailed to him. We really didn't have to do all this, but there's so many things that are teased in this arc, or so many things that we learn that have bigger implications for the story later on. And I really like how most of this arc so far, Tanjiro has been nerfed by using like other swords, or leftover swords pretty much left to him to use. But when a Demon Slayer gets their own actual sword in their hand, it feels like they just get a massive boost in capability, and that is something that we are going to see Tanjiro do when he finally gets his blade in this arc. But make sure you prepare yourself, because even though Demon Slayer Season 3 Episode 2 was all about Tanjiro training with this doll, it seems like Season 3 Episode 3, which is coming out by the time you probably watch this video, is gonna start the battle between the Upper Moons and our Hashira, as well as Tanjiro. So expect to see what the Mist Pillar is actually made of after all that trash that he talked for the first couple episodes, but we are expecting Tanjiro to be in some pretty big danger, because again, he doesn't have his own sword here when Upper Moons are attacking the Swordsmith Village. And we know that Tanjiro had to kind of pull out all the stops to take down the last pair of Upper Moons. I mean, he had to work alongside Uzui, and then he had to work alongside Nezuko and his other friends to take those Demon Moons down, but this time it seems like Tanjiro was more or less going to be mainly by himself, unless he can ask for the help of Kanroji or anyone else that might be in the area. So definitely look forward to Tanjiro getting his brand new sword over the course of the next few episodes. It seems like we are moving through the Swordsmith Village arc very quickly, and that really makes me wonder if they're going to try to squeeze in the mark training that happens with all the Hashiras at the end of this season, or if they're going to save that for next season. Personally, I feel like if they can squeeze Swordsmith Village into a kind of smaller section of the season and do it justice, then I wouldn't mind seeing the mark training of all of the Hashira, because that would save us from having to see that next season, and we can just get into the events of what next season is supposed to be, which is likely going to be the final season of the anime. Next up, you can go watch one of my 2 videos about Yoriichi, the original Sun Breath user, or Upper Moon 1, the Moon Breath user, and I'm actually thinking about updating my Demon Slayer intro. Let me know if there's any clips or any moments from the first 3 seasons or Mugen Train that we've seen already that you think have to make it in, and I'll try to include that in the next version of the intro. But speaking of the intro, I guess I'm going to be using it as a little bit of an outro. Check the channel again tomorrow for my review and episode breakdown for everything going on in Season 3 Episode 3. So I'll see you guys later. It's Pineapple. Peace.